it impacts the economy very badly.
Yeah.
Our banks will have difficulties interacting with foreign banks. We can't afford to get into the grey list.
Absolutely.
Right? So the picture was titled Enemies of the Society. We have only 450 odd judicial officers, 15 judges to 1 million here in Sri Lanka. That is the ratio.
Welcome to Connect with Rohan de Alwis, brought to you by Ideal Island from London. However, I'm in Colombo today at the Seylan Bank head office in Kolupitiya. I'm with the chairman of the bank, Justice Buwaneka Aluvihare, judge of the Supreme Court who has retired, I think towards the end of last year. Welcome, Buwaneka, to this program.
Thank you, Rohan, and thank you for having me on your program.
Well,
it's a pleasure
always
to
a
be
pleasure.
here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you again, Rohan.
And it's been a very long time that we've been able to get a similar program sorted out. And well, I was going to talk to you about the legal system, the laws, and how it benefits the people, the concerns, etc. people have. Let's get into that a little in a few minutes' time.
Yep.
You have changed from the public sector as a judge of the Supreme Court to the private sector. What has it been like, the change?
Well, Rohan, just to answer that question, at the moment I'm wearing 3 hats, so to speak.
Right.
As you know that I'm chairman of this bank.
Seylan Bank.
Seylan Bank, which is one of the prime banks of the country. And it had been a very pleasant experience for me to shift from the government sector to the private sector. I work with the extremely talented and the professional team at the helm. And it had been an enjoyable experience after joining the Seylan Bank. So I also function as the head of a task force, a cabinet appointed task force. I'm the chairman of the task force monitoring compliance of action plans of anti-money laundering and terrorist financing of 20 odd government agencies and institutions.
Right.
I also play a short or I would say advisory role for a USAID project called Efficient and Effective Justice, the focus of which is to promote or to strengthen the rule of law in this country. And among other objectives, one focus or one objective of the project is to introduce a case management plan to our system of courts, which I will go into detail as we go on with the interview. So those are the 3 basically hats that I'm wearing, if you say.
Well, that's a wonderful set of targets and responsibilities, Buwaneka, because I think when we qualified from the Sri Lanka Law College, yes. You ventured into the Attorney General's department after a brief period in private practice.
That is correct.
Yeah, and then from there you were a professional lawyer, and then representing the state and so on. Then you had an illustrious career in the bench, retiring as a judge of the Supreme Court. Walk us through how the state sector, the government, the Attorney General's department, and the prosecutions and civil cases, just a general synopsis so that some of our viewers, not just in Sri Lanka but worldwide, yes. get some form of a flavor. I'm not asking you to go into detail, but right. just yes. give us a flavor.
Yes, Rohan, I think throughout my 30-year career in the Justice Department, I work in the criminal division. I was mainly, I did prosecutions initially for about 10 to 15 years. Then I played again a supervisory role, supervising the junior officers, guiding investigations, law enforcement into investigations. then advising state departments on on numerous legal issues. So those were the core duties I performed. And then later years, I represent the state in criminal appeals, both in the Court of Appeal and in the Supreme Court. I would say my career in the departments is a very challenging one. It's absolutely challenging and enjoyable one. The workload that you have to carry is tremendous. Sometimes it tells on you. It's actually, I would say, though sometimes we hear criticism of the Attorney General's Department on various issues, but still I would say no one understands the amount of responsibility and duties the officers of the Attorney General's Department carry with them. It is tremendous, and the contribution they make to the administration of justice is really remarkable. It is not only criminal prosecutions, Rohan. The department advises the government on very crucial matters, bilateral agreements, international agreements, sometimes commercial agreements, and represent the state in commercial arbitrations outside the jurisdiction. And I think it performs, the Aegis Department performs a number of duties other than prosecutions in criminal cases.
Yeah.
So very few people appreciate the functions and duties of the Attorney General's Department. But
this is the reason why I wanted you to talk about the inner workings, or how it works on the inside.
Yes.
Because most of us on the outside do not necessarily see the how it works and so on. So
Yes.
that's the light I'm trying to sort of highlight here.
Right.
So how does the change from the Attorney General's Department to the bench work? I mean, I'm talking about your case in particular.
Yes, of course. When I was appointed to the Supreme Court, it came at a very unexpected hour. That is not something I anticipated or expected. It came from the blue, so to speak. But my there was a certain amount of trepidation initially, but I think I adjusted to the new life. That was also equally enjoyable. But I think in terms of time management, managing the Supreme Court was much easier than managing the workload at the Attorney General's Department. Yes, and other aspect is I was exposed to other disciplines of the law, which I have never dealt with when I was at the Attorney General's Department, especially the area of labor law, sometimes the certain commercial law. It was a case of sometimes studying new areas, equipping yourself to the task of adjudicating cases. Those aspects were challenging, but I think looking back, I think I enjoyed my 10-year tenure as a judge of the Supreme Court.
So that was 10 years at the Supreme Court as a judge of the Supreme Court. So that's wonderful. When you look back, I think it's all an enriching experience, and the service you rendered, that's really great. So you mentioned the USAID project on case management.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. But before I get to that point, from the point of view of the average litigant or the citizen of Sri Lanka, one common complaint they have, perhaps a strong observation, if I can say so, is that the legal system is slow to act. Perhaps it's reacting, even the reaction is too slow. How do you see both as somebody who spent a substantial period of your professional career in the Attorney General's Department, then a good solid 10 years in the Supreme Court, give us the other side of the coin.
I think that's a very pertinent question, I think, Rohan. Actually, the issue is, you ask yourself, is this system of administration of justice serving the public the way it ought to deliver? My simple answer, my truthful my answer would be, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Is that because of the workload, or not enough people, or it's just too many litigants?
No, due to multiple reasons, I would say, multiple reasons. But having said that, I think the system of the judicial system still provides a tremendous service, and still people have a lot of faith in the judiciary in resolving their disputes, and what is necessary is to strengthen that and raise the credibility of the judicial system to a higher level from where it is now. Before you ask the next question, can I split your question into two aspects? You have the public law aspect as opposed to the example you just said. From the litigant's perspective, a single litigant's perspective, his expectations of getting his case resolved on a timely basis, right? There are two aspects. If you look at the public law aspect, if you ask anyone on the road, any citizen, I'm sure they will applaud how the courts have looked at the public law issues. Let me go back to last few years. I don't want to give examples.
No.
So in that aspect, I think the judiciary acts as a bulwark, right? And had functioned up to the expectations of the people of this country.
That is on the public law.
That is on public law. Now, the issue with regard to a single individual having to go through basically resources, time, all that, and having to wait for long years to get his case adjudicated is not, I would say, it is not what we expect from the judicial system. That is why I said, when you asked that question, in my view, the service that we ought to provide to the public in their personal litigations is not up to the expectations. That is why I said that. So basically, that is the simple answer that I can give you.
So how would you hope to, in your thought process, improve the system? I mean, do we simply have, just as the USAID system has is putting in place a case management system, would more staff recruitment and staff training, would that help, or recruiting more judges, or is it a combination of both then? All of this?
I think, Rohan, I would approach this question from a different perspective or different angle, because rather than my expressing my opinion,
of course,
right? This is my personal opinion. I think someone should look at the system from an independent angle, right? I think the best document we have at this point of time on that is the governance assessment done by the IMF, which came out in September. It's governance diagnostic assessment.
Yes.
Governance diagnostic assessment done by the IMF last September.
Yeah, I have seen it.
Yes. So that is an independent assessment of a system. So rather than listening to anyone now, just taking on my opinion, I would invite anyone who is interested in identifying the ills of the system to read that.
And I think that's an important point you highlighted, Buwaneka, because when you say IMF, there are a few camps.
Yeah.
Somebody who's got who has an interest in politics, if you're opposed to the capitalist system, they might say anything to do with the IMF would be wrong. But here we are looking at it as a bank of international last resort, helping countries out, just as any bank would do to a distressed individual. Now, when somebody looks at a country or an individual from the outside, they see a different picture.
Right.
And that's the important thing. Whether we agree with the concepts, the recommendations, that's for us to decide as Sri Lankans. But I think emphasis must be given to the recommendations. And I've read the assessment, and I think it's a very broad, focused, 360-degree, and to some degree the cliches I'm using, out-of-the-box assessment. Now, there are lots of things that we will need to do in accordance with it, so it's a journey that we have to undertake. Do you really think that we have started on this journey towards progress?
No, we have not started on that journey. If you look at the focus of governance diagnostic assessment, Rohan, it has nothing to do with the court system.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the court system. The focus of that governance diagnostic assessment is on corruption vulnerabilities plus governance weaknesses.
Yes.
Governance weaknesses in I think microeconomic critical areas, right? So in that in analyzing that aspect, at the tail end of their report, there is a short chapter which dealt with rule of law.
Yes.
Right. Now, I only want to highlight, so that now this is their findings. I think they are expert findings. The two findings that they have focused on the area of rule of law. They say the court system of this country is under-resourced, right? I think the correct word is, they say poor resources, right? Poor resources. That is one aspect they had dealt with. Limited capacity of legal personnel.
I think that's to be contemporary, to know the changes and to be aware. It's that proper competencies need to be developed. So I think it's what they're referring to is sort of continuous training, adequate training.
Right.
I think that's the point that they're trying to highlight. Right. And of course, not enough people, and also the infrastructure under-resourced, rather than lack of resources. We have the resources, but I think that's what it is. Yeah.
So I think that should be the starting point. Then it also highlights the fact that our court system cannot cope with the flow of cases entering the system, right? And what is the reason they attribute for that? Is because we still sticking on to antiquated processes. So basically, this is not my thinking. This is what the IMF report has said. So I think now you asked about this USAID project about introducing the case management program. The whole idea of that is to change the way we think in court, or basically changing the processes we go. It is not the courts only. As I said, sometimes the people blame the courts for delays, right? And various other shortcomings on the part of the court. But that is because the interface is the court. Everything is put on the court. As far as the litigant is concerned, his interaction is with the court. His or her interaction with the court. So any delay or any shortcomings is attributed to the court. But no one realizes the court cannot function on its own. There are so many other support agencies which are in the background, whose support is necessary for the court to function efficiently. So it is not a matter of reorganizing the court itself, but it is also, it should extend to reorganizing other support agencies or institutions that helps the court to adjudicate its cases. I will give you one simple example. I don't want to go into specifics. You take land cases, and Rohan, you know that in almost all land cases, you need to get a survey done.
Yeah.
Right. But now there is a dearth of surveyors, or surveyors are reluctant to do surveyors for the court or for the system.
Is that because of responsibility or the fees are low? Or?
I do not know the reason, but this is a common complaint. So when the court cannot find a surveyor to do the survey or issue the commission, the whole process gets delayed. So then ultimately, but the blame comes to the court.
Of course.
Right. So that is one aspect. Secondly, if you look at, you asked whether we have started doing something to overcome these deficiencies. I would say one would suggest that we increase the number of courts. Yes, we need more courts. If you look at the ratio, it is 15 judges to 1 million here in Sri Lanka. That is the ratio.
I see.
In India, which has a population of 1.5 billion, even there the ratio is 21 to 1 million.
I see.
Right. If you look at the entire judicial structure from the Chief Justice to the Labour Tribunal President, we have only 450 odd judicial officers.
Is that all?
Right. 450 judicial officers. And we have a population close to 22 million.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at Ukraine, right, which has a population of 44 million, it has 5,000 judges. Right. So I'm not saying that we need 5,000 judges, but I'm just trying to highlight the mismatch. Right. So increasing the number of judges number of courts is required, but that is not going to resolve the problem. We need to change the way we do things. That is where I think this case management or case management system would come handy.
Yes, now just sharing my experiences in the United Kingdom with a well-coordinated case management system. Actually, it's the case management system that drives the judges, the lawyers, and everyone else, including the police in criminal cases, because that case management system, not necessarily called the case management system, but that's what it is. It's not only available to the lawyers and the judges, but to those who are, say for example, if there is a police station that is involved in prosecuting a certain number of cases, those cases are linked to them as well. So they have to follow those deadlines.
Yes.
And it's just like how you mentioned about not finding enough surveyors, but if there is a surveyor that has been assigned to the case, then he is then under a legal duty and obligation to court through this system. So we all feel the pressure because it comes on your own computer screen.
Yes.
Whether I'm a lawyer or a policeman or somebody acting within the court system, a clerical officer. Of course, we don't have stenographers, etc. anymore in the UK, but the clerk of the court, basically, everybody's focused through that. And even if a judge has a delay due to not following a certain thing, these things happen. He also then has to explain why these delays happened, because it's very important. I was quite heartened when you said that there is a case management system coming through, because that will cure a lot of things, but not certainly under-resourcing and all of that sort of competencies or improving competencies, but it can identify those weak spots. So I wouldn't for a moment say the English legal system functions really smoothly. It doesn't. But in comparison to other countries, that includes Sri Lanka, the system is much faster.
Yes.
That's the point I want to sort of drive home. Not necessarily to say that it's a better system. It's the systems that's been put in place. Buwaneka, as you explained, that's what you're working on in one of the hats that you wear. So, talking about still on the judicial system, getting a bit more sensitive and technical here. In the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of news reports, media, about the orders of the Supreme Court being interpreted or discussed in Parliament. I'm sensitive to the fact that you are just off the bench since November, and you're still carrying out certain government and semi-government and private sector responsibilities, and as a retired justice of the Supreme Court, I will give you the freedom to answer that question the way you want to answer it, but from my side I would like to get black and white answers, but your answers might be different.
You put me in a spot, Rohan, but I will try to give a candid answer. Well, first and foremost, I think we have to recognize the fact there is freedom of expression, Constitution as a fundamental right. Whether it's a parliamentarian or whoever, they have the freedom to express themselves, right? So we have to respect that and we have to recognize that. But then, on the other hand, there are ethical issues. Whether unfair criticism of a judicial order is appropriate or not. So I think it is a judgment call of each one. They should be sensitive enough to these matters, especially coming from a court. Everyone should respect the decision of a court, and even if there is criticism, then it must be a considered criticism. And other than that, I think for me, it doesn't look right sometimes. It doesn't look right, but subject to the fact that what I said earlier. Well, freedom of expression is there, and they are free to express their views about it. So maybe people feel differently about these judgments, and they have their own opinions. But what I would like to say is, courts or the judges should not be perturbed by any criticism, right? I have been criticized as a judge. We go on doing our job, right? I don't think the criticism should bother judicial officers. I will tell you a small example in UK. I remember after the Brexit judgment, the three judges, they splashed the three photographs of the judges who sat on that bench, and the picture was titled "Enemies of the Society."
Correct, I remember that.
Right. So I don't think those judges would have taken that with a pinch of salt and would have gone on doing their job on the bench. So I think as an ex-judicial officer and having served on the bench for 10 years, I don't think I will get perturbed by any comment made by that. I will go on serving the country to the best of my ability. I think that should be the mindset of a judge.
And that, of course, highlights the determination of the judges to keep the judiciary independent. They just get on with the work.
Yes.
That's important.
Yeah, I also must say that our judiciary had been independent in my view, not only on paper but in its functionality as well. So I think they should continue functioning in that fashion, be independent and give judgments according to their conscience.
And your change from the state sector judiciary to the private sector, I know you do two other matters, with the USAID and basically from the Seylan Bank standpoint, which is the private sector. I know I asked the question earlier, but how has the change been like? How was it difficult for you to adapt to that change? How was it? they welcomed you and gave you a smooth sailing here.
Yes, I think it was a smooth sailing for me. I was welcomed here, and as I said, I perform a non-executive function, and I have, I mean, the Seylan staff is extremely helpful. Some of the matters are new to me, and they are more than happy to assist me in those matters, as well as the members of the board. They come from various disciplines. They are highly professional persons, and they make my job that much easy. So I think the transition has been very smooth and a very pleasant one. And yes, I think I will enjoy this.
And on the third hat that you're wearing, which is the anti-corruption and so on, you mentioned about. Now, in the international sphere, Sri Lanka comes in a danger zone country for anti-corruption. Money laundering aspects and so on. How is the whole process geared to make sure that there are strict and adequate measures to prevent this type of money laundering, criminal activity occurring?
Yes, Rohan, I think anyone who has some idea about the anti-money laundering and countering of terrorist financing legal regime should know that there are international guidelines called FATF 40 recommendations. And every country is expected to adhere and implement those 40 recommendations. And every country is evaluated for their compliance with the anti-money laundering and countering of terrorism financing legal regimes and compliance once in 4 years.
Right.
And after the evaluation, if they see there are shortcomings, a country can get into a blacklist, a grey list, and then the white list. Right. After 2015 or 2016 it's called a mutual evaluation done by the peers, and we were in the grey list.
In the grey list.
Grey list, and it impacts the economy very badly. We will have difficulty, our banks will have difficulties interacting with foreign banks. It will impact adversely on the international commerce, and in the present economic predicament, we can't afford to get into the grey list.
Absolutely.
Right? So our next round of mutual evaluations will be next year.
I see.
Right. And we have to ready the agencies to face that. Plus, we have to see that our compliance is 100%. Right. So basically, the mandate of the task force is to ensure that we are fully compliant with the requirements of the Financial Action Task Force 40 recommendations. There are two components, legislative and technical.
Right.
So that is what I'm doing now. We have identified certain deficient areas. We have made action plans for each stakeholder, and we are asking the stakeholders to address those deficiencies.
So it will be up to the stakeholders to implement and adhere to those plans.
That is absolutely correct.
Right. And what's the commitment like amongst our stakeholders to make sure that we come out with the right result?
Yes. I must say very frankly, most of the stakeholders are very cooperative. They are making, I would say, taking a lot of efforts to address those deficiencies, because at the moment they also face a lot of difficulties with regard to adequate resources. They are understaffed because there is an embargo on recruitment now due to the economic problems. And certain agencies, not that they are not cooperating, they are yet to appreciate the gravity of this. Right. They take it as an additional burden
Yeah.
So I think I don't blame them. It is, I think, the duty of the task force to convince them this is not a matter for that individual institution, it's a national duty.
Yeah, because as long as those companies, those stakeholders remain where they are, they will think it is as an additional burden. However, if once they come up and exit or graduate rather from the national to the international level,
yes,
that's where they will have problems.
Absolutely.
Because those companies, those stakeholders will
yes,
be judged as less compliant.
Yes.
I mean, I have had clients, and from a practical legal commercial standpoint, where in the UK with a Sri Lankan telephone number, Sri Lanka address,
yes,
you can be a shareholder of a British company or a director.
Yes.
Even the opening of a bank account creates a problem for them, because the company or the institution may be absolutely genuine and the individual from Sri Lanka is above board, but as soon as they see that +94 telephone number,
yeah,
or a .lk,
yes,
there are certain issues. So I think we have I'm very glad to hear that you are part and parcel of that overall advisory committee, and that we are actually taking steps to come out of this issue. So I think we discussed a fair amount on the laws proper, but talking of the individual Buwaneka Aluvihare, how do you spend your rest of your time in retirement these days?
In fact, after retirement, I thought I would have a lot of free time.
But you're doing more work,
it
more
looks
jobs.
like I am fully engaged now, so I don't have much free time.
Surely there must be
But
some time.
I must say, still, there is not so much of pressure, right? And I'm enjoying what I'm doing at the moment. So I think that itself is some kind of a relaxation. I'm occupied, I don't feel the time pass, and I'm not idling. But in my little free time, I'm a car enthusiast.
Yes, I knew that.
Yes.
I was going to ask you about your enthusiasm about the car industry and cars. Tell us a little bit about it, because I am one of them as well.
Okay, I think from my young age I've been interested in vehicles. And I always read material or any literature on vehicles, and I have kept track with the development of the motor industry, including the collapse of the Leyland Group in '75.
Yes.
British
Leyland.
British Leyland, yes, yeah. British Leyland. No, basically I would say the entire British motor industry.
Well, it's nobody.
No,
we know there is no British motor industry
now.
And
I mean, at one point.
That was the jewel in the crown.
That was the jewel in the crown. I mean, in all the Commonwealth countries, it was the British cars that ran on the roads. So I followed that, and the competitiveness in the motor industry, it's amazing. That's a different area, right? And also the development in technology. I think I have a feeling that. Electric car is the future. Very soon we will see more electric cars than fuel or what you call internal combustion engines. And what you call driverless vehicles. Yes.
It's already happening in certain states, in the US as well as in few other countries, but it's at a very early stage. But I think give it another 5 years, it will be more prevalent than we are today.
Yes.
I think the car industry is a classic barometer to say how it has changed from the conservative, conventional, the British car industry or the American car industry, to the then the emerging Japanese car industry. But now it has been overtaken, and it's more consolidated, and it's a great journey, and I'm glad you and I share a similar sort of hobby. You're into carpentry as well?
I like doing odd jobs.
Yes.
I have a small workshop on top of my garage.
Right.
And I have all the tools. I fabricate stuff. And I do all the odd jobs at home.
Right.
I'm the handyman at home.
Yes.
So sometimes it's a pain, because if something breaks down, I'm called upon to mend it. So, right. So, yeah, but I enjoy it. I have collected various kind of tools, and I have a fair collection of tools.
So you have electric tools as well as the old yatukate like things as well?
Yes,
or?
but basically now I am collecting what you call codeless tools.
Yes, yes.
Which makes it easy because in my present age it's difficult to plug wires and
no, come on. Yeah.
So these cordless tools are very handy, right, and then easy to work with. Including my car polishers, my
all of that.
all of that. So that gives you a lot of relaxation. And when you fabricate something and you admire it,
yes, it's absolute refreshing.
Yeah, you really enjoy doing that.
Buwaneka, on that pleasant note, yes, I thank you for sharing your valuable time at the corporate offices here in Colombo 3. And for taking the time out to talk to us and to our viewers both in Sri Lanka and worldwide, sharing your experiences and your current journey as well. I wish you the very best in everything you do. All the very best.
Thank you, Rohan. Just parting words. I must say that this is my first interview on camera. I have never done an interview before before a camera. And it's a privilege to be interviewed by your own batchmate. Thank you, Rohan, accommodating me, and thank you very much.
The pleasure is mine, Buwaneka.
Okay, thank you.
That's Justice Buwaneka Aluvihare, Chairman of Seylan Bank in Sri Lanka. Thank you.